Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. So in this video, I'm going to talk about something other than crypto. It's going to be oil. Now, oil is important. It touches all of our lives. So whether you're a crypto holder or not, this is something that I think will pertain to you. So this is, by the way, the WTI crude oil chart. I'm on a week candle, so it's a zoomed out picture. The first thing to do is to bring this chart to life with a few boxes. Bam. So it is my belief that oil has a repetitive structure. The first time this structure played out, it was very pixelated, very difficult to even make sense of it. That took place from 1966 to 1979. From 1979 to 1990, the structure repeats again. And then from 1990 to present, it has been playing out once again. Now, when a structure repeats, the basic idea copies over, but the timing, the height, and the depth, those will always be original to the new iteration of that structure. So that can give leeway for novelty in the way it looks, although at the heart of it, it's repeating the same basic idea. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So to begin with, I'd like to start not with the original structure just because it's so difficult to read, but instead with this structure right here from 1979 to 1990. And what I'm going to do to make it easier to read is I'm going to copy this part right here so it's a little clearer. So now that we see what this does over here, more easily at least, let's dive in. So this structure starts with a move up and a move back down. Now this move up and move down is much larger than what it did before this structure. So that is the opening act of this structure. It starts with a substantial move up and then a move down. After it bottoms out, it bounces up and comes to a low, but it does it not in a straight line. It does it in a series of bounces. So we have this first bounce and then this second bounce. Okay, so here we are zoomed in a little more so it's easier to see. So after this series of bounces to a low, it then changes direction. It begins to move up. It doesn't move up in a straight line. It does it in a series of waves. So you have the first wave, and then the second wave is a wave that ends in a parabolic move. It comes to a point, and then it crashes. After this crash, which is a substantial crash, it does a new phase in the structure, and that is a series of two larger bounces. So that makes up the essence of what this structure does. So it's a sequence of events that will be repeated over here. Let's examine this structure and see how it has been playing out. Okay, so now that we know what the basic functions of this structure are, let's see if we can spot those same functions on this next box. So this box goes from 1990 to present. Remember how I told you it starts with a move up and it moves back down? Well, we see the same thing here. Now this looks tiny compared to all this over here, but when you compare back to the structure that came before it, it's a substantial move. So after this move up and move down, what does it do over here? It moves to a low in a series of bounces. So we had the first bounce and the second bounce. It's very small, I know. So here it plays out on a much larger scale, and we have that first bounce and a second bounce, which brings it to a low. What does it do? After that, it changes direction. So we have a move up. So this move up starts with a smaller wave and then goes into a parabolic wave. So we have that first wave right here, and then it ends with that parabolic wave where it comes to a needlepoint peak and then crashes. It crashes like a lead weight, just like it did over here. Once it crashes, it goes into a new phase, and that is the two bounces, the two large bounces after the crash. So we see the first bounce here, which goes to a low, and then we are currently working on the second bounce. Let's stop and look at some of the differences. Okay, so we have a move up to a peak and then it crashes. We have the same thing here, but this time, this moved up just incredibly high compared to what this one did. And this is a good example of the timing, height, and depth being unique, but the basic idea repeating. So they both crash, but notice since this one moved up higher, it didn't crash as deep as it did this time. So this one didn't move up as high but crashed deeper. This one moved up higher but didn't actually crash as deep. And because it didn't crash as deep, these waves over here, they look bigger when compared to these waves over here. So that's just a little observation of the differences, but it's really just the timing, height, and depth manifesting itself in a unique way, even though the basic structure repeats. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this fractal and copy and paste it over here. Now, of course, I'll have to adjust it for the timing, height, and depth because, like I said, it plays out uniquely. But once I do that, it will look something like this. Okay, so what I've done here is I've matched each part. So here is the two bounces that takes place over here. Over here is the first wave, and I had to cut that into separate parts, and then here's the part where it starts moving up. And the reason to break it up into separate parts is because, for instance, this one stretched out quite a bit more than this one. But if I just grabbed this just like this, I'll show you, even though it's doing the basic idea, it's still not in the same proportion that today's is. So, I mean, that works, but it's just a little neater and cleaner if you break it up into smaller sections. So it crashes, it does the first wave. So this is where we're at now. Let me get rid of this. So here we are zoomed in a little more. So as you can see, it has done this first part of this wave, and it brought oil roughly to $128 and something cents, almost $129. It has been working on this part. Now, there's the possibility that I have this slightly misaligned. It could play out a little different. Maybe we're still in this part and it's still going to move down a little more. How this materializes, I don't know. But what I do know is that the fractal begins to move up. In fact, it moves up higher than this peak over here. Now, the timing, height, and depth could play out different this time around, so be prepared for that. But what we should be aware of, at least, is that this fractal suggests it starts to move up. And it may, at times, begin to move up aggressively. So just as we had some aggressive movement over here on this peak, I would be open to something similar maybe playing out. And I'd also be open to oil going higher than it did over here. We have potentially some interesting times. I don't know how long this will take to play out. Again, this is on a week candle, so it will take some time, that's for sure. And we may not see some cataclysmic changes tomorrow, but in the coming months, we may start to see oil begin to be a bit more of an issue than it is now. What oil is saying is similar to what the year-over-year U.S. inflation rate is also saying. So it's my belief that this chart is a repetitive structure. I've done a video on this. You can watch that video over here. So I believe we have completed this part right here, and we're working on this part. We are near a point where it's likely going to begin to move up. As you can see, even this move down, it's doing what it should do at this point in the chart. But eventually, it turns around and begins to move up, and at a certain point, it begins to move up aggressively. Now, I don't know if it's going to go this high. It could go higher, could go lower. And the same is true of this. I don't know how high it will go. It could go higher, it could go lower. Maybe this will be a nothing burger, but I'd at least be open to the possibility that in the coming months, we might see the price of oil in the headlines. So anyways, once this structure completes, you know how it begins with a move up, that seems high when compared to what came before it. Well, if we were to match this same kind of ratio and apply it to the next beginning structure, it would look something like this. Again, I don't know if it'll go this high. It may go lower. For that matter, it could go higher too. But that's coming down the pike. I don't know timing, but this is 2028. I don't know if it'll actually be that. But regardless, this is what we're going to be dealing with sooner rather than later. So I cleaned this chart up. So there's a lot going on in the world, and there are many possibilities for oil to spike. I just find it interesting that we have in the world of geopolitics, wars or potential wars or rumors of wars that could affect the price of oil. And at the same time, we have the chart telling us we're at that point where the price of oil will likely begin to move up. Now, how it all comes together, how it all plays out is yet to be seen. So if you would like to see the analysis of this part right here, I am going to cut this video short. You can watch this video here, and I go into this whole structure and this. So that is a bit more of a deeper dive than what you saw in this video. I am so glad you caught this video. If you found this video helpful or informative, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. If you're not yet a subscriber, I recommend hitting that subscribe button. I'll continue to follow up on this chart as it continues to develop. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.